The Chandrayaan-3 lunar mission held significant importance for India as it aimed to accelerate the country's growth as a space power. Dr. Ranganathan underscores this significance by highlighting how space missions have historically propelled nations' technological and scientific advancements. He points out past space missions by countries like the USA and Russia as examples. Overall, the Chandrayaan mission symbolized India's pursuit of becoming a prominent player in space exploration, contributing to its technological, scientific, and geopolitical development. Listen to his opinions and share in the comments how you, being an Indian, perceive the achievement of Chandrayaan-3.
1500 years after Brahmagupta discovered gravity, 1000 years after Bhaskara invented calculus, 500 years after Nilakantha conceived the heliocentric planetary model, 100 years after Chandrasekhar gave his mass limit of a star, and 50 years after India ventured first into space, we have today realized our finest hour. It is the dawn of a new India, an India where every young Indian would want to become a scientist, would want to emulate the great heroes of ISRO. What Sachin did for cricket and Vishwanathan Anand for chess, ISRO has done for astronomy and space research. This is the day all of us have been waiting for. Something similar happened for the USA in 1969 in the wake of the moon landing. And 50 years later, we have reached our own finest hour. And what makes it sweeter is that we have landed on the moon after having stumbled and fallen down in our last attempt in 2019. But why is this mission of critical importance, one may ask? After all, we have boldly gone where many others have gone before. Well, before we may not realize this, but space technology touches our daily lives in more ways than one can imagine. Underneath the grand visuals of rocket launches and rovers landing on extraterrestrial surfaces, visuals that doubtless precipitate national pride, lies a string of futurist inventions, sturdier materials, smarter electronics, and innovative life support systems to sustain human life in unfavorable environments. And when these breakthroughs begin to supplement our daily lives, as sooner or later they always do, they pull the standard of living up by several notches. Had it not been for the Apollo moon mission of NASA, for instance, we wouldn't have had seamless TV and radio transmission, quartz watches, tires, water purifier, athletic shoes, cordless tools, card swipe devices, ready-made frozen food, solar panels, weather maps, airplane safety chutes, fireproof suits, breathing assistance apparatus, cardiac pacemakers, and countless other essentials that we now take for granted. In half a century and 216 missions since its inception, ISRO too has developed a long list of remarkably economical indigenous technologies. Noteworthy also that along this journey, it has been an organization whose purpose transcends the glass ceilings of gender and power politics. 410, I repeat, 410 of ISRO's technologies have now been transferred or licensed to as many as 235 Indian companies. These are widely used across sectors such as chemical and specialty materials, mechanical, electronics and telecommunications, broadcasting, navigation and optics. ISRO is a world beater. That it seldom comes across as one in the nation's conscious is not its fault but ours. We remember ISRO only at countdowns. A successful liftoff means we remember ISRO a little more than a day. Then it is back to Modi and Rahul and Kejriwal and India Alliance and NDA and all that sort of rubbish. Perhaps all for good. Perhaps this is how ISRO prefers it. In the coming years, ISRO is determined to take the next epochal leap, strengthening international collaborations and at the same time expanding the coverage and bandwidth of satellite transmissions in rural India. Artemis Accord, NISAR satellite, 15 student satellites, launch rate of 6 per year in the last decade, launching 390 satellites since 2014, earning as much as 4,000 crores of foreign exchange through it. ISRO has set itself for as many as 6 major launching in 2023. But one among these is garnering wide-eyed attention of Indians and the world alike. And it goes by the name of Vikram, India's moon lander. Named Vikram after Sarabhai that just descended on moon's south pole as part of Chandrayaan-3, ISRO has called it its most complex mission yet. On top of this, Prime Minister Modi, also the minister in charge of the Department of Space, has declared to put an Indian in space very soon. Every single time India under Modi accomplishes something in science, technology, defense, space, they start crediting Nehru for it. Nehru built this, Nehru built that, it is because of Nehru. Agar tum saans bhi le rahe ho to wo Nehru ji ki deen hai. I'm sorry, but this is absurd to credit Nehru for everything. Might as well credit Hitler for the 1969 moon landing. For it wouldn't have been possible without von Braun and V2 technology that the Americans snatched as war spoils in 1945. Ideas need to be backed by contemporary, not historical figures. There is no such thing as historical enabling in science and technology. Great research institutes and centers of excellence can crumble within years, even months. Ideas are the product of human mind, not sanctioned buildings. Science doesn't live in the past. Science isn't history. So today is a historic day. India joins the rank of select nations that have the capability to send rover to the moon and explore it. At least today, I request you guys to stop this nitpicking and hail our incredible achievement. Finally, returning to ISRO's grand projects and ideas of moon, Mars and beyond, some may call these vanity projects, but they are not. For those unaware, the so-called great game has been played since the time Kipling coined the very phrase in Kim. Then the players were Britain and France. Soon it would be India and China. Perhaps they already are. The quest for playground supremacy among powerful nations has turned into a game of musical chairs, but with a difference. When the music stops, no one removes a chair. There is no attrition for those who are too big to fail. Nations get cartelized, and India desires, some feel, needs to be in that cartel. Space science will again become an essential derivative in the ever-evolving power equation. The White House administration recently spoke of the need for a space force. A space that was, quote, once peaceful and uncontested is now crowded and adversarial, unquote. The context for this unprecedented declaration was not only China's ramped up efforts in space science and the attempt at destroying one of our own satellites by a powerful missile that India also accomplished, but also President Putin's announcement of Russia's aggravated weapons program. World War III might well be fought with sticks and stones, but preparations, it appears, are already underway for World War 2.5. Space Force, if constituted, would be the sixth arm of the US, with Air Force fighters specializing in the domain of space. Any such attempt, notwithstanding the motive behind or being of a defensive or an offensive nature, stands in violation of the United Nations Outer Space Treaty that expressly prohibits placement and use of weapons in outer space or the moon and other celestial bodies. Space is not to be subjected to national appropriation or claims of sovereignty. Any effort by a signatory nation to turn rogue has to be thwarted by the rest, not just by diplomacy, but rather by establishing equivalence in technical prowess. Given India's habitually weak-kneed efforts in international diplomacy, it is quite possible that we have opted for the latter option. We are going boldly where many have gone before, I said, but we have reasons to. And some of these reasons may never be made public because they involve defense and our security, probably our very existence. On the peaceful scientific front, NASA's moon mission that had been well and truly laid to rest with the completion of the Apollo project in 1972 has now been resurrected on the American president's strategic directive. So NASA, along with a handful of private space technologies and companies, has begun working on setting up a permanent outpost for humans on the moon to accomplish its multifold objective of returning humans to the moon and to create a gateway for travel to Mars and beyond. The outpost is envisioned to give America a strategic importance in its cislunar space. The plan is to have the gateway lodge 4 astronauts and serve as a hub for robotic and crewed exploration of the moon. Needless to mention, a mountain of new science would be developed to realize deep space exploration and dominance. There is no denying this. Great powers are going for large-scale economic development of space. This could include mining, especially helium-3 for future energy use, space tourism, and other industries of the future. The writing is on the wall, and it is in India's interest for ISRO to become a tech equal in the Space Club and prepare for the next milestone, an Indian crew on the moon. With its well-established and globally appreciated launch capabilities, an ISRO launch site on the moon would go a long way in shaping our future. Tumba tranquillatis. Space is no longer the final frontier, and its exploration no longer a luxury we cannot afford. Winter is coming. Let's be ready for it. Thank you.